Good evening, Council. We will call this meeting for May 3rd, 2021 to order. And per Governor Inslee's emergency proclamation 20-05 and 20-28, and stay safe, stay healthy, the City of Auburn is holding public meetings virtually at this time. City of Auburn Resolution Number 5581 designates City of Auburn meeting locations for all regular, special, and study session meetings of the City Council and of the committees, boards, and commissions of the city as virtual locations. All right, Council, if you will please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And Sean, will you please call roll?
Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Here.
Councilmember Baggett.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember J. Raj.
Here.
Councilmember Malenga.
Here.
Councilmember Stearns.
Here.
Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Here.
All right. Thank you very much. We do have 3 proclamations this evening, and I will start with National Police Officer Week. Whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which that date falls as Police Week, to honor the service and sacrifice of officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. And whereas law enforcement is a noble and courageous occupation, we honor and recognize our police officers for their service and sacrifice in keeping our communities safe. And whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members at the Auburn Police Department. And whereas since the first recorded police death in 1786, more than 24,200 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and tragically been killed in the line of duty. 302 of those names engraved are from Washington State. And now, therefore, I, Nancy Backus, call upon all community members in Auburn to observe the week of May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week and join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities. I further call upon community members of Auburn to observe May 13th, 2021 as National Peace Officers Memorial Day and lower flags to half-staff as directed under presidential order in honor of the law enforcement personnel who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service. And let us also recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Dated this 3rd day of May, 2021. And our next proclamation is Older Americans Month. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of history on this. Before this month-long celebration was established in 1963, only 17 million living Americans had reached their 65th birthday. About a third of older Americans lived in poverty, and there were few programs to meet their needs. A meeting between President John F. Kennedy and members of the National Council of Senior Citizens led to designating May as Senior Citizens Month, the prelude to Older Americans Month. So the proclamation reads, whereas the city of Auburn includes a thriving community of older Americans who deserve recognition for their contributions and sacrifices to ensure a better life for future generations. Whereas the city of Auburn is stronger when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds are included and encouraged to make their mark. And whereas the city of Auburn is committed to advancing collaboration amongst healthcare, community-based, governmental, and academic organizations to enable our older Americans to age well and enjoy a great quality of life. And whereas we can foster communities of strength by creating opportunities to share stories and learn from each other, engaging older adults through education, recreation, service, encouraging people of all ages to celebrate connections and resilience. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Backus, Mayor of the City of Auburn, do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Older Americans Month in the City of Auburn and urge community members to recognize older adults and the people who support them as essential contributors to the strength of our community. Dated this third day of May, 2021. And finally, for Mental Health Month. Whereas Mental Health Month has been observed since 1949 to raise awareness of mental health conditions and the importance of mental health, depression being the #1 mental health issue in the world today. And whereas mental health is a fundamental part of an individual's overall health and well-being, mental illness is a major public health concern in Auburn, with about 1 in 5 adults experiencing some form of mental illness each year. And an alarming number of teens and youth are experiencing depression. And whereas in 2020, our Auburn Police Department wrote 598 reports related to mental or behavioral health issues. Of those, 538 were involuntarily committed, and the totals for 2021 are continuing to grow at an increasing rate due to the current pandemic. And whereas Teen Ready was developed through the Healthy Auburn for Life Blue Ribbon Committee, after 2019 statistics revealed 2/3 of adults and young people who have mental health disorders are not receiving the help they need, and educating the public about mental health is essential in efforts to reduce the stigma that motivates discrimination against those with such disorders. And whereas education and prevention are effective ways to share the responsibility in helping anyone with signs of mental illness and substance disorders, and to support and promote prevention within our families, friends, schools, and community. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Backus, Mayor of the City of Auburn, do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Mental Health Month within the City of Auburn, and call upon our community members to promote awareness and understanding of mental wellness, and to stand by those with mental health challenges to remind them that they are never alone. Dated this third day of May, 2021. 3 very important proclamations this evening, addressing many within our community. All right, I don't believe we have any public hearings tonight, Sean.
No, Your Honor.
So we will move to audience participation. This is the place on the agenda where the public is invited to speak to the City Council on any issue. And since we are meeting remotely, public comment is taken via email, fax, or regular mail. And so, Sean, will you please provide a record of the public comment that has been received?
Yes, Your Honor. We received a public comment from Bob Zimmerman. Mr. Zimmerman provided comment on propane safety. We received comment from Christina Harris. Ms. Harris provided comments in support of grocery workers hazard pay. And we provided and received comment from Greg Starr. Mr. Starr provided comments in opposition of grocery workers hazard pay.
Thank you. And I want to make a correction to public comment from our prior council meeting. Council, this was an email correspondence between myself and Zanita Reed of the Lived Experience Coalition, and also a co-member or member of the board that I also serve on for the King County Regional Homelessness Authority Board of Governance. And I want to apologize to Zanita for mischaracterizing her email as one of support for ordinance number 6817. We had had a long discussion on numerous topics, and the intent was not to mislead, but it was my true understanding of the conversation that we had had. But I want to offer my personal and sincere apologies to Ms. Reed for that mischaracterization. All right, we will move on. Excuse me. We have no correspondence for council this evening. We will move to council ad hoc committee reports. Council ad hoc committee chairs may report on the status of their ad hoc council committee's progress on assigned tasks and may give their recommendation to the city council, if any. First, we have the finance ad hoc committee, and that is chaired by Councilmember Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Council Ad Hoc Finance Committee, consisting of council members Jay Araj and myself, reviewed 37 pages of 2021 claims vouchers totaling $2.8 million, dated May 3rd, 2021. It should be noted that the claims vouchers also included approximately $67,000 in funding for CDBG and human services grants. The committee also reviewed payroll vouchers for the period April 14th through April 28th, 2021, in the total amount of $2.6 million. All questions by the committee for the finance department were answered to the committee's satisfaction, and upon completion of our review, we recommend council approval of these vouchers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Baggett. And our second ad hoc committee is grocery workers hazard pay, chaired by Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. The ad hoc committee has met. In addition, the mayor has arranged for all of our council members to have an opportunity to have further discussion in the appropriate way, so that we did not have a quorum. And so I would really want to thank the mayor and everybody that participated in these discussions. It's an important subject and important to the grocery workers and to the grocery businesses as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. All right, we will move to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered by the City Council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. And for the motion, Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Thank you. Councilmember Baggett.
I second that motion, Your Honor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. On the consent agenda this evening, we have the minutes of the April 19th, 2021 regular council meeting, the minutes of the April 26th, 2021 study session, and the claims vouchers and payroll vouchers as described and presented by Councilmember Baggett and recommended for approval by council.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions or comments on the consent agenda? If not, if you would please unmute. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes. We have no unfinished business for this evening. We will move to ordinances. Ordinance number 6818, an ordinance protecting the health, safety, and prosperity of grocery workers and the general public during the existing state of emergency. Do we have a motion? Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I would like to move to table ordinance number 6818 to the May 17th, 2021 council meeting.
Okay, and tabling to a date certain, I believe, requires a second. Is there a second? Councilmember Stearns?
I had a question or a point of order. Do we go and table first, or do we go and approve to move the ordinance first?
I believe it can be done either way. I'm getting a head nod from our city attorney. Is that correct?
That is correct. And because the motion has been made, the current motion on the table is to table it to a date certain. So at this point, council would need a second, or that motion will die.
Okay. So let's see. I'm going to take these in order. Councilmember Brown.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. Are there, now that we have a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Councilmember Trout Manuel?
I just wanted to say that I would have liked to have had it also tabled. So Mr. DeCoursey has already covered that. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor DeCoursey?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just give a brief explanation. At the last study session, we had quite a discussion, as we know, quite a few council comments and questions. And during the study session, the mayor asked council if we would like to have staff prepare and bring back information to council, which is typically done on ordinances for city council. And this would look at the impacts to the community. It would look at bringing back information regarding equality and the financial impact of the ordinance. And although there was not a consensus of council that evening, I'm suggesting tonight that we do exactly that. We have information that I think we need to bring forward regarding equity, broad-based equity discussion, equality, the impacts on the ordinance itself, and how enforcement of the ordinance would be handled for any potential non-compliance or violations. And then overall, the impacts on business and the community in Auburn.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown?
Thank you, Your Honor. I seconded this motion, but want to make it clear to my fellow council members that I am in favor of this ordinance. But in conversation with several of my council members in study session, it made clear to me that people had sincere desire to examine the equity piece. I am, very concerned about equity, and I appreciate those positions. I personally feel like this is an equity issue on behalf of grocery workers who are lower income workers that have been there with our community, working in an environment that subjects them to unhealthy conditions that have impacted our grocery workers. So while I do support this, I appreciate the concern of my fellow council members to make sure that we're doing things in a way that recognizes the equity questions at hand here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Stearns?
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the words of both the deputy mayor, council members Trout Manuel and Larry Brown. I believe we do understand the equity implications, so I'm going to vote against this, but I totally understand where everyone else is coming from. I just simply would point out that on the equity side, we certainly know that in Washington State, the pandemic has disproportionately hit communities of color, and that nationwide, at least 35,000 grocery workers have been infected with COVID-19. And that when it comes specifically to grocery workers, that Black grocery workers make up 11.9% of all grocery workers, but 14.2% of grocery workers. And women are disproportionately affected. Almost 72% of grocery cashiers are women. So the effect of the pandemic and the effect of this ordinance would definitely address great disparities in the grocery worker industry. So I'll be glad to share the numbers with our staff, but I just felt that that was an important point to make as we begin our analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Stearns. Councilmember J. Raj.
Thank you, Your Honor. What I would also like with, besides the diversity and equity portion of it, is the impact on the grocery stores will have, as far as what is it going to impact the grocers themselves. So I would like to know that portion of it.
Okay, and
Thank you.
impact, just so we make sure that staff is preparing the information that you are asking for if this motion to table passes. Impact on grocery stores in what regard? Financial impact?
Financial impact, I'm sorry.
Okay, financial impact. All right, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Councilmember Trout Manuel.
That was one of my biggest concern, is the impact on our grocery stores. On if we do this, how many of our grocers are going to start laying people off? Because we've already heard from some of the stores that it's going to impact them, and they may leave our area. And that's one of the things that I would like our staff to look and see. How much of an impact are they going to have that they would have to lay people off and or close the doors? So that would be nice for us to get.
We will do what we can in that regard. Councilmember Brown.
Yes, thank you. And as part of both Councilmember J. Raj and Trout Manuel's request, I'd like to make sure that we include profitability as well in the last year for our grocery industry as part of that report. Thank you.
Thank you. I think our city attorney is taking notes on what is to be included. Councilmember Stearns.
Yeah, I was wondering if it would be appropriate to request a presentation at our next study session. I think we have time between the tabling. If this tabling is successful, we have like 2 weeks?
Well, 2 weeks until the next council meeting.
Right. So we would have a study session between that. So I'm wondering if it'd be appropriate to ask if it would be okay to have a presentation on this issue by United Food and Commercial Workers.
A presentation by UFCW?
That's correct.
Okay, as
at our next study session.
We will look at that, because I can't commit to you at this point in time that all of the work, the analysis that staff needs to do will be completed by next Monday. The commitment would be to the May 17th council meeting, and there would be, as we do from time to time, staff presentations prior to a vote on the motion. So what I'm saying is I can't tonight commit to you that the entire staff presentation will be ready for the study session. You are, the vote on the table, the motion on the table, or motion on the floor is to table the vote until the May 17th meeting. And so that will give our staff time to do the research in the areas that you have requested as a council.
Okay, thank you, I understand that. So,
Okay.
but would it still be on top of that? Would it be okay? Or is this the appropriate time to, or are you the appropriate, I'm sorry, I'm new to this part of our program.
Well, and that's a question that I'm not typically used to answering either. And I don't know if our city attorney is prepared to weigh in on that or not.
I mean, I guess maybe I should just say I would like to have UFCW make a presentation during our study session on Monday. Maybe I can leave it like that.
Well, it still requires a majority of the council members in order to request a topic be put on an agenda. So
Okay.
let's see what our city attorney has to say. This is some new uncharted territory for us. So we want to make sure we get this right.
Thank you, Mayor. So the motion on the floor is to table to the date certain. So that's the vote that would need to occur. And then after that vote occurs, if council would like to express an interest and a consensus to put something on the agenda for next week's study session, we can. That being said, the staff work is directed by the mayor. So she would have to agree to that, and given staff limitations, that might change the amount of work that can be presented next Monday. And I'm not sure if UFCW would be available or if they'd have an individual able to do that presentation, but we can certainly reach out if that's council's interest. But at this point, the motion on the floor is to table to a date certain. So that would be the subject of debate. And then once debate has ended, there are no other questions. That is the vote of council right now.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before you vote on the motion to table? Councilmember Malinga.
I appreciate Councilmember Starnes for bringing that up about the union. But also too, is there the other side as well that can present to us? Because I mean, I want to hear from both sides before I make a decision. So is there someone from the grocer side that can also present to us to tell us what their concerns are? I just want to hear from both sides. Is that possible or that's not possible?
So if there is a consensus after we take this vote to have presentations from UFCW and a representative from the grocers, we will do our best to make those connections to have presentations for you. Okay. Councilmember Jayraj.
Thank you, Ron. Just clarification at this point. City Attorney Kendra Como. Question is so next Monday we'll be possibly getting the union and the business owners to come in and present their sides, right? In the study session.
At this point, that motion is not on the floor. So the council needs to vote on the motion to postpone the vote that is scheduled on the agenda for tonight. You're going to postpone it to May 17th if you're voting in favor of this motion. And then afterwards, a council member can move to request a city staff presentation next Monday night at study session.
The staff study session could be on the council meeting.
The staff study session probably will not occur next Monday night at study session.
Right.
It will occur at the May 17th meeting.
Okay.
But after this vote to table to May 17th, if that is successful, then a council member could make a motion to request a presentation from each side at the study session. And then we as staff would do our best to find representation from each side to present to council. Sound fair?
Sounds good. Yep,
All right.
sounds fair.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Mayor, I call for the question.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor of tabling ordinance number 6818 to May 17th, 2021, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no.
No.
Okay, the motion passes 6-1. Ordinance number 6818 will be brought back to council at our next council meeting on May 17th. And now, is there another motion in regard to Councilmember Stearns?
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to hear presentations from the grocers and the UFCW sides next Monday.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
I would second that motion, Your Honor.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, if you would unmute, and all in favor of staff reaching out and asking representatives from the UFCW, Local 21, as well as the Grocers Association to be present to make a presentation at next Monday's study session, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. That motion passes. Thank you, council. I know that's not our typical process, so thank you for helping to make it a smooth process, and we will do outreach tomorrow to both parties. All right, let's move on to something that we are more used to. Resolutions. Resolution number 5595, a resolution authorizing the adoption of the facilities master plan. Do we have a motion? Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, Mayor, I move the adoption of resolution number 5595.
Thank you. Councilmember Troutman.
I second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 5595, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Resolution number 5589, a resolution amending the lease agreement between the City of Auburn and Sound Transit for a property located within the Auburn Sound Transit parking garage. Do we have a motion?
Sure.
Councilmember Stearns.
I move to adopt resolution number 5589.
Thank you. Councilmember Baggett.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Stearns.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution corrects an error on the site plan that misidentifies the location of the space that is subject to the lease agreement.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council? All right. All those in favor of resolution number 5589, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say.
Aye.
Sorry, Councilmember J. Raj.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. I didn't mean to step on your vote. Resolution 5589 passes. All right, we will move to mayor and council member reports. At this time, the mayor and city council may report on significant items associated with their appointed positions on federal, state, regional, and local organizations. We will begin with Deputy Mayor DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just one item this evening. On April 22nd, we held our Sound Cities Association Affordable Housing Committee caucus. And we had quite an interesting meeting. We had a presentation from Skip. We talked about the shared revenue principles on how the funding mechanisms would work for affordable housing in the process of the committee, offering recommendations. And then we discussed the potential draft of the federal legislative priorities that are recommended by the committee. And a few items on this would be, number one, to ensure a long-term housing recovery act. And that act is now supported and sponsored by Representative Adam Smith. And it does quite a bit to add money into long-term housing assistance. The allocation of this bill is $25 billion. So, and it would also increase the vouchers for about 200,000 households that are earning less than 80% of AMI. And we'll keep looking forward to how this progresses through Congress. And as everybody's aware, there's a bill going through the process right now related to infrastructure funding. And we want to make sure that that also has a housing element in it. So we are looking at bolstering up and expanding the low-income housing tax credit program, of which many of the affordable housing projects are built under. We have Representative Dalbeni, who is looking at releasing an Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act that would include lowering the bond test and the bond fees for the tax credits. And of course, Senator Cantwell, who's been the champion of the low-income housing tax credit program for many, many years. And we're also looking at having the National Housing Trust Fund, which would be implemented at a rate of about $45 billion. And we're looking at that as kind of the high watermark right now, but that would do a lot for serving the extremely low-income households, those earning less than 30% of AMI, which is kind of the targeted group of where the majority of affordable housing is needed and required, especially in Washington State. And then also on the Housing Authority sides, looking at, once again, trying to get the capital fund program at a level that is supporting the needs of public housing renovation and modernization. So we're looking at $70 billion investment into the public housing capital fund, which has been grossly underfunded for many, many, many years. And typically the unmet needs of public housing across the nation grows at about $3 billion annually. And then lastly, looking at the HUD Community Development Program, putting an additional $5 billion into the Home Investment Partnership Program and $10 billion into a competitive CDBG allocation that will be available to local governments. So we will continue to work on this and keep it going. I have to put a little bit of a HUD acronym in there because when we look at the HUD appropriations, it is tied in with transportation. So it's called the Transportation and Housing and Urban Development Appropriations Bill. And unfortunately, that has the acronym of THUD. And for many, many years with THUD, we who have worked in an industry know that's the sound it makes when the bill hits the floor. That's my report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor DeCoursey. Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Yes, I just have a small report. On April 26th, we met with the HELO group, and that's the Hispanic Elected Legislative Officials. And we talked a lot about the COVID and how are they reaching the Latinx families, communities, and are they reaching out to them? How are they reaching out to them? And several of the people that were on were really concerned about the older community not having computer knowledge and not having a computer, not being able to get to a place to be able to get their COVID shots because of not understanding the language. And so they were working really hard on taking mobile units to go to the different apartments, go to the different elderly homes and have translators there. So it was a long discussion on that from several states on how they're working really hard on getting the Hispanic community vaccinated and the elderly. Also, we talked about building our memberships because our membership is down. And so they sent each one of us from our states all the Latinos that have been elected. So we had to reach out to them, and I reached out to 4 of them in the Tri-Cities and 3 in Seattle, and 1 in Kent and 1 in Berrien. And so we sent them the invitation to be able to come to our next meeting. Some of those cities are not members of National Leagues of Cities. So we're going to try to organize myself with the National Leagues of Cities to meet with these individuals by Zoom and share the importance of our city, how we, are members, and the benefits that we reap from being members of National Leagues of Cities. And that's about it. And we're going to meet next month. And thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Trout Manuel. Councilmember Baggett.
No report tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown.
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilmember Stearns.
Thank you, Your Honor. 3 things. On April 28th, the Watershed Ecosystem Forum Management Committee met. And we are looking at a draft resolution that will be brought to all the cities, including Auburn, to update the resource inventory salmon habitat plan. The committee also examined the 2021 budget, and the proposed budget includes funding for projects, including Northeast Auburn Creek, $300,000, which is great, as well as money for a little bit upstream for Flaming Geyser restoration, again, $300,000. And there will be an increase to Auburn's cost share of $299 from $27,717 up to $28,016. So that's pretty good, I think, in terms of how things are increasing these days. Also on the 28th, I met again with the Indigenous Municipal Officials group of the National League of Cities, and we heard from a number of other groups within NLC about how they operate, what the things that they do, and the benefits of being part of a group. So we started discussing how to make the IMO an official part of the National League of Cities. So that's a process that'll continue on throughout the year. And then just lastly, I wanted to really just thank the Kiwanis Club. I know there are other organizations that were really involved in Operation Clean Sweep. I can say it was really enjoyable, fun to do last Saturday to help make Auburn a better, cleaner place to live. But I just really wanted to thank all the wonderful people I met from the Kiwanis Club. So that's my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Stearns. Councilmember J-Raj.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I have a new name. Bleh.
Bleh.
Just a small note. On April the 24th, Councilmember Baggett and myself, we were at the clean sweep in the middle of the rain, and we did our job with a big smiley face. So that was my report.
Excellent, thank you. And Councilmember Malinga.
Nothing to report, Your Honor. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Well, I do want to say thank you as well to the over 350 participants who came out in not the greatest of weather to support Clean Sweep. And there were numerous organizations that came out in the elements to, as you said, make our city shine. And I appreciate that very much. Last Tuesday, I went to the Ray of Hope to say thank you to a group of clients from the Ray of Hope, as well as some of the staff members. There were 29 in total who cleaned up, they signed up and cleaned up all of I Street Northeast. And I really appreciate the work that they did, went down and answered questions for them after giving them my appreciation, but also chatted with them, answered their questions about what's going on with our resource center, excuse me, community court, and other issues that were important to them. And so I always look forward to those conversations and opportunities to reconnect with some of our community members who utilize those resources down at the north end of town. And on Tuesday, the 27th, we had a meeting with the Muckleshoot Indian Tribal Council leadership. And council, we have reestablished now quarterly meetings where we will rotate inviting council members. We cannot have a quorum at those meetings, but we will invite 2 to 3 council members at each one of the upcoming meetings to ensure that there are relationships established and nurtured between the city of Auburn and the Muckleshoot Indian tribe. We have always believed that that was an important community partnership for us to have. And so the upcoming meetings you will be invited to. On Wednesday, the 28th, we had our monthly Mayor's Interfaith Roundtable. Kent Hay, our homelessness outreach coordinator, came to provide some updates. I think, as I may have mentioned to you before, some of the churches who participate in this roundtable have stepped up to help furnish apartments for those who Kent is able to get into housing. There's also been a fund that was established through the Auburn Food Bank because they have their 501c3 designation. And so some of our local churches have donated to that specific fund so that Kent has access to those funds to assist someone as they are awaiting housing or as they get into housing, or any other specific needs that are not appropriate for the city to cover. And so we greatly appreciate that partnership with our faith-based community. It's one that is becoming even more increasingly important as we move forward, and really thank them for that work. And on Thursday, as I believe a couple of council members also joined, the Puget Sound Regional Council General Assembly, that is the annual assembly of all of Snohomish, King, Pierce, and Kitsap counties. All of a sudden, I couldn't remember the 4th county. And I wanted to say thank you to the outgoing chair, Bruce Dammeier, the Pierce County executive, and congratulations to incoming president, Claudia Balducci, King County council member, as well as Paulsbo Mayor Becky Erickson as vice chair. So look forward to some great work with the 2 of them in leadership. And council, while there have been female chairs of the PSRC before, this is the first time that both the chair and the vice chair have been female. So a little bit of groundbreaking times. Who'd have thunk it in 2021 that we still have ground to break, but very, very proud that PSRC will be led by 2 very strong and capable females. Also on the 29th, I attended Brian Petty's retirement party. Brian Petty has been part of our Parks, Arts, and Recreation Department for 30 years, council. 30 years he has dedicated to the city of Auburn, and we met in the Community and Event Center, safely socially distanced, everyone with masks on, and wished Brian well as he and his wife enjoy retirement. So best of luck to all of them. And I believe that is the end of my report. We have no need for an executive session tonight. So council, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.